Hey, don't rage quit bro here, bringing you an update on the attribute stacking Energy Blades Arc Inquisitor. I'll put links to the previous two videos in the description below, as well as my current POB. Here's an overview of changes from the previous videos. I switched from self-cast to cast on crit, hitting the 14% CDR breakpoint and 100% hit and crit chance. I reassessed defenses as I'd be in the fray and not casting from a distance any longer. Switched to Chaos Inoculation. I changed the passive tree quite a bit to accommodate this change to Chaos Inoculation. Switched a couple of Flasks. Upgraded some of the rare gear slots on the character and picked up a couple of Megalomaniacs, though you could get all the mods on one Megalomaniac if you're lucky. I'll go over this a little bit more in the video later. Here are my defensive layers currently sitting in Hideout without Flasks active. About 6.4k ES with Energy Blades active, 74% physical reduction, 72% evasion, 75, 75, 76 resistances, 100% chaos res, 75 attack and spell block with glancing blows, energy shield on hit Watcher's Eye, energy shield on block shield. First, let's talk about the reasoning behind the progression and the way that I did. With the previous build, self-cast and life ES hybrid, I didn't make it past wave 23 in the simulacrum and died from getting one shot by the mod that is add X% fizz as extra chaos, or from taking too many hits too quickly. For the chaos damage part, the answer was easy. Get Chaos Inoculation. Because of this change, this freed up many passive points on the skill tree. As for the latter part about taking too many hits too quickly, this needed to be addressed on several different layers. First, we dropped Wrath in favor of Determination, giving us significantly more armor, and to work in collaboration with this, I picked up Divine Shield to give me a steady source of energy shield recovery while in combat. And as we all know, the number one best defense in Path of Exile is to keep moving, don't stand still. And having to stop and cast spells just wasn't working, which led me to the cast on crit method with Cyclone. Now because we're going cast on crit with Cyclone, that means we'll be in the fray constantly, which puts us at risk to take even more hits. In order to help mitigate this, I started by wanting to pick up Grace, which meant I had to get more reservation. I did so by adding in an uncompromising Megalomaniac and dropping Herald of Purity. Additionally, I had to pick up Enlightened Jewels to help with the mana cost. Currently, one is level 4 and one is level 3. Next is Block Chance and the shield mod, Energy Shield Recovered on Block. In order to maximize the effect of the shield, I need to block as much and as frequently as possible, which led me to picking up Glancing Blows. I was able to get 75% attack block and 58% spell block easily enough, but I wanted more. I picked up a second Megalomaniac with Sublime Form, which allowed me to then get Tempest Shield, which capped my spell block chance. Next is Watcher's Eye with ES on hit. This mod applies to both spells and attacks, so it procs on the arc hits as well as the cyclone hits. As we want to reduce the ability for enemies to one-shot us, even on wave 30 simulacrum, I picked up 60% reduced extra damage from critical strikes, 30% on Sanctum of Thought, and 30% on the critical mastery passive. As we're taking CI, this puts us right next to the aura cluster, which I grabbed as well for the 20% increased effective auras and the mastery for 8% increased damage per aura. Next, let's talk a little bit about Cyclone and Cast on Crit. For those who don't know, there are breakpoints associated with Cast on Crit, as there is an internal cooldown. We can increase the frequency of how often it procs by tinkering with our cooldown reduction and our attack speed. Cooldown reduction is fairly scarce, and by far the easiest way to hit the first breakpoint is with Awakened Cast on Crit. Here's a brief chart on the breakpoints. And what this means is if I have between 14 and 51% cooldown reduction total, I want to get my attack speed as close to 7.57 attacks per second without going over. With having 100% crit and 100% hit chance, this means Arc will proc on every Cyclone hit, mana permitting. Because of the changes to cast on crit, now making it cost mana when it procs, we need to take this into consideration as well. Having a max level clarity by itself isn't enough, and to help offset the costs, I picked up Divergent Inspiration, as well as a minus cost of skills bench mod on one of my rings. And this still wasn't enough. We can finish this off in a couple of different ways, either picking up another mod on our second ring, or more regen. I am currently taking Mystic Bulwark, which gives us mana regen, and finishes fixing the issue. I chose this method as it allows me to get cold damage mod on the other ring, which even though it's low and my only source of cold damage, I shatter almost everything I kill. This segues nicely into Flasks. First, all magic flasks will have the mod Gain Charge on Critical Strike. We changed things a bit as we no longer needed the Life Flask and our already attack and spell cap blocked without roomies, so we could get rid of that as well. For the first flask, I chose a Silver Flask as it gives us Onslaught. We'll take this into consideration when assessing our attack speed in order to maximize the amount of usage we get out of our cast on crit setup, as whether we're mapping or bossing, flasks are used to boost our damage frequently. With flasks active, I'm sitting at 7.3 attacks per second, which isn't perfect 7.57 by any means, but it gets us pretty close and still allows every Cyclone hit to proc Arc. The other replacement flask, I went with the Jade Flask. Sitting at 74 physical reduction and 72 evasion, a Granite Flask will boost our physical reduction by 4%, whereas the Jade boosts our evasion by 6%. Due to the fact that physical reduction is only going to come into play if we get hit, and it's a physical hit, my opinion is that the Jade Flask will provide more defensive utility. The other flasks are the same, Atziri's Promise, Quicksilver, and Sulfur Flasks. Suffixes on the magic flasks are Remove Bleeding, Remove Burning, Energy Shield Leech, and Reduced Effective Curses. Next up is gear selection. For uniques, we are using Crown of the Inward Eye for the helmet, Astromentus with Utmost Might Anoint for the amulet, and Shaper's Touch with Spell Crit Implicit. For the rings, we're looking for Strength and Ent, with Energy Shield and Resistances, with an open prefix for us to craft on it. For the shield, we want High ES, Extra Block Chance, and ES on Block. The faster start of recovery you see here isn't a requirement by any means, but it is quite helpful. Another option would be getting 35% block on the shield, thus eliminating the need for the Sanctuary Cluster by Glancing Blows, and giving us further flexibility with the skill tree. For the boots, we want as high energy shield as possible with move speed, and then depending on your resistances, either percent strength and a res, or double res to go along with the Ent roll. For the belt, we want a heavy belt base with a high strength explicit and percent attributes. And if you can, look for energy shield and resistances. For the chest, again, as high energy shield as possible, with Ent and percent Ent, and if possible, an open suffix for percent attributes. Here are my current jewels, and what you'll want to focus on is getting as much crit multi as possible, with percent energy shield being the ideal fourth mod. As for the bandits, I changed off of Help Alira to Kill All to get the extra 2 passive points. For Pantheons, as we're immune to chaos damage and Tempest Shield gives us immunity to shock, this gives us 2 decent choices, Aberrath or Yugal. I'll leave Yugal on unless I'm doing a Burning Ground map. And for the major Pantheon, Soul of the Brine King is still by far the best choice. And lastly, here's an overview of the skill tree, but you'll be able to find this in all of its detail in the path of building, which I'll include in the description below. And I'll leave you guys with a Maven kill. Thanks for watching, and have a nice day.
interesting.
I must have time to gather my will.
Punishment